spooky place.
You've taken shortcuts before, but not like this one. Tonight, the road isn't just empty, it's hungry. And the children who haunt Black Hollow Pass don't just want you to stop. They want you to stay forever. So turn up your volume and pray your brakes don't fail. This is the story of the road that drives itself. The handprints. The rain fell in heavy sheets as Daniel Carter gripped the steering wheel, the headlights of his old sedan cutting weakly through the storm. The road ahead, Black Hollow Pass, was notorious for its sharp turns and steep drops, but it was the quickest way home. The radio crackled with static, the signal long dead in this desolate stretch. Then he saw it, a small, grimy handprint smeared across the passenger window. Daniel frowned. He hadn't stopped anywhere. Rolling down the window, he wiped it away with his sleeve, the cold wind biting his skin. But as soon as he pulled his arm back, another print appeared, this time smaller, like a child's. His blood turned to ice. Thud. Something hit the roof of the car. Daniel's breath hitched. He glanced up, heart hammering, as another thud came. Then another, like tiny hands pattering above him. The windshield wipers screeched against the glass, struggling to keep up as more handprints bloomed across the windows, smearing like mud, or something worse. "Stop it," he shouted, swerving as a shadow flickered in the rearview mirror. A face, pale, hollow-eyed, peered over the back seat before vanishing. Daniel slammed the brakes, skidding to a stop. The car was silent. The rain had stopped. Then a whisper, "Help us." His stomach dropped. The voice was everywhere, inside his head, under his skin. The dashboard lights flickered, and in the dim glow, he saw them. Dozens of small, shadowy figures standing along the road, their empty eyes fixed on him. One by one, they raised their hands, pressing them against the car, leaving behind wet, dark prints. Daniel hit the gas, tires screaming as he fled. But no matter how fast he drove, the handprints kept coming. On the windows, the ceiling, the steering wheel. The whispers grew louder, pleading, angry. You didn't stop. Morning light revealed the truth. The local news reported it with grim finality. Decades ago, a school bus full of children plunged off Black Hollow Pass. The driver, drunk, distracted, never stopped. The children's bodies were never found. And now, they make sure no one ever drives through their road without staying forever. Daniel's car was discovered days later, abandoned, every inch covered in tiny, desperate handprints. And if you listen closely on stormy nights, you might hear the children's final plea. "Take us home." Daniel Carter's car was found abandoned on Black Hollow Pass, its windows smeared with tiny, desperate handprints. The police wrote it off as another missing person case, just like the others before him. But the locals knew better. They never took that road after dark. A week later, a trucker named Vince ignored the warnings. Ghost stories are for kids. He scoffed, rolling his rig down the rain-slicked pass. His CB radio buzzed with static. Then a child's voice whispered, "Can you see us?" Vince's blood ran cold. He looked in his rearview mirror and screamed. The back of his cab was filled with children, pale, hollow-eyed, their mouths stretched in silent screams, their small hands pressed against the glass. The truck swerved violently as Vince clawed at the door, but the locks clicked shut on their own. The children's whispers filled the cab. "You're going too fast, just like him." Then, silence. Vince's rig was found the next morning, engine still running, cab empty. But on the passenger seat, a single muddy backpack sat, unopened. Inside, a decayed permission slip from 1973, the day the school bus vanished. Journalist Maria Lopez didn't believe in ghosts. She came to Black Hollow Pass for a story, armed with a camera and skepticism. But as she stepped out of her car, the fog curled around her like skeletal fingers. Then she heard it, the distant sound of children laughing. Her camera flashed on its own, capturing blurred figures in the mist. Small shapes darted between the trees, their laughter turning to sobs. Maria's breath came in ragged gasps as her phone lit up with a notification, a voicemail from her own number. She played it. "Help us before he comes back." A shadow loomed behind her, a hulking figure in a raincoat, its face hidden under a dripping hat. The children's whispers turned frantic. "Run! It's the driver." Maria sprinted for her car, but the engine wouldn't start. The fog thickened, and in the distance, headlights flickered. An old, rusted school bus, its doors creaking open. The last thing her camera recorded was a single, blood-stained hand reaching out from the bus steps. No one travels Black Hollow Pass at night anymore. But sometimes, when the rain falls just right, drivers report seeing a lone figure standing on the roadside, a man in a tattered coat, his face twisted in eternal panic. They say it's Daniel Carter, doomed to relive his final moments forever. And if you slow down, if you listen closely, you'll hear the children's voices, whispering one last warning. "Don't stop. He's still looking for us." The school bus never left, and its driver is still picking up passengers. Detective Sarah Whitmore had seen her share of horrors, but nothing prepared her for the case file labeled Black Hollow Pass, 23 missing, 1973 present. The photos showed abandoned vehicles, each covered in the same tiny handprints. The most recent was a chilling dashcam video from Vince's truck, blurry figures crawling from the woods toward his cab before the feed cut to static. Sarah drove to the pass at dusk, determined to debunk the myth. Her radio played soft static, but as she rounded Dead Man's Curve, a child's voice broke through. "You shouldn't have come." Her headlights flickered. The road ahead shimmered, then changed. The asphalt cracked, the trees withered, and the yellow school crossing sign morphed into a rusted relic. She slammed the brakes, but her car skidded right through a phantom stop sign. In her rearview mirror, a dozen skeletal hands pressed against the glass. Sarah stumbled out, her flashlight revealing a gruesome truth. The road was made of them. Faded backpacks, tiny shoes, and finger bones pressed into the asphalt like macabre pavement. A shadow moved at the tree line. The driver. His raincoat dripped black sludge, his face a mangled ruin of the crash that killed him. And the children. He lurched toward her, a rusted bus, key glinting in his grip. "They need a new teacher," he gurgled. Sarah ran, but the forest shifted, trapping her in a loop. The whispers grew louder. "Stay with us. We're so lonely." She tripped over a moss-covered gravestone, her own name etched into it, the date tonight. The bus engine roared to life behind her. Morning light revealed Sarah's empty patrol car, its back seat scattered with crayon drawings of a woman screaming. The radio crackled to life one last time. All aboard, and deep in the woods, a rusted school bus rolled forward, its headlights flickering, its seats filled with small, shadowy figures, and one new passenger in a detective's uniform, her face pressed against the window in silent terror. Black Hollow Pass is always looking for new students. Will you take the shortcut tonight? Detective Sarah Whitmore's disappearance made headlines, but the truth was buried in a sealed evidence box. The dash cam from her car showed something impossible. The moment she was pulled into the rusted school bus by dozens of small, grasping hands. The footage ended with a single frame. Sarah's face, mouth stretched in a scream, pressed against the bus window as it faded into the mist. Officer Mark Reynolds was assigned to close the case. He laughed at the ghost stories until he found Sarah's notebook in the evidence room. The last page was covered in frantic childlike scribbles. The same phrase over and over. The driver is hungry. That night, Mark's GPS rerouted him on a Black Hollow Pass. His headlights illuminated something new. A small figure in a tattered dress standing in the road. He swerved, but the impact never came. When he stepped out, his tires were coated in black mud that smelled like rotting school lunches. A whisper echoed from the woods. "We have a seat for you." Mark's flashlight died. In the sudden dark, he realized the trees weren't trees at all. They were towering figures in raincoats, their faces hidden in shadow. The road behind him had vanished. Only the bus remained, its doors creaking open with the sound of bending metal from a long-ago crash. Inside, Sarah sat slumped in the driver's seat, her uniform now a stained raincoat, her eyes milk white. The children crowded the aisles, their fingers fused to the seats from decades of waiting. "You have to keep driving," Sarah's corpse whispered, "or he'll make you one of us." The engine roared to life on its own. Through the windshield, Mark saw the truth. This wasn't a road anymore. They were driving through an endless loop of the crash, the bus tumbling through darkness forever. If you walk Black Hollow Pass at midnight, you'll see them, a procession of abandoned cars, each with handprints climbing higher up the windows. And if you're very quiet, you'll hear the bus approaching, its wheels splashing through invisible puddles. The children are still counting new passengers. Your name is next. The town erected barriers across Black Hollow Pass after Mark Reynolds vanished, but the next morning, workers found them smashed apart, not from the outside, but from within. Security cameras showed the wreckage flying outward at 3:17 a.m., as if something massive had burst out of the road itself. A week later, hikers found a catatonic woman wandering near the pass. Emily Carter, missing since 1998, was still wearing her high school jacket. She spoke only once before her heart gave out. The children get louder when the driver is near. Doctors noted her palms were covered in deep, crescent-shaped scars, as if she'd been gripping something in terror for decades. Paranormal investigator Jason Cole set up infrared cameras along the pass. The footage showed the road breathing, the asphalt rising and falling like a sleeping beast. At 3:17 a.m., the cameras captured Emily's ghost running past, pursued by shadows with too many limbs. Then something worse. A single frame showing Jason himself standing among the trees, his face slack, his hands fused together in prayer, dated 1 week in the future. Local historian Rachel Nguyen discovered the awful truth. Black Hollow Pass was built over a mass grave from 1882. A schoolhouse fire had trapped 23 children inside. The town buried them beneath the new road to hide their shame. The Journal of the Road's architect contained a final, trembling entry. They're singing under the dirt. The little ones are teaching the big one how to be hungry. Local historian Rachel Nguyen discovered the awful truth. Black Hollow Pass was built over a mass grave from 1882. A schoolhouse fire had trapped 23 children inside. The town buried them beneath the new road to hide their shame. The Journal of the Road's architect contained a final, trembling entry. They're singing under the dirt. The little ones are teaching the big one how to be hungry. The barriers are gone now. The road looks freshly paved. At night, headlights move along and despite the closure signs. Sometimes, drivers report seeing a cheerful yellow school bus stop to pick up waiting children. The kids all wear old-fashioned clothes. They never get off at any destination. And if you look closely at the driver's seat, sometimes it's Sarah, sometimes Mark, sometimes you. Always with that same milky stare as you make the turn on a Black Hollow Pass. Forever, deep beneath the asphalt, Something pulses like a sleeping heart. Geologists who studied the area reported hearing whispers in their seismic readings. Children's voices reciting multiplication tables in perfect unison, interrupted by wet, tearing sounds. The core samples came back wrong. Instead of rock and soil, the drill bits pulled up clumps of hair, baby teeth, and strips of leather from old school shoes. The lead researcher disappeared the night he logged his final report, leaving behind a single sentence scratched into his desk. The road is alive, and it remembers everyone who ever drove on it. At the abandoned Black Hollow Elementary, the auditorium lights flicker to life every full moon. The folding chairs fill with shadowy figures as the ghostly school band plays a funeral march. On stage, the missing take their turns at the podium. Sarah, Mark, Rachel, Derek, and dozens more. Their faces stretched into rictus grins as they recite their names and the dates they vanished. Then comes the procession. The children lead their newest classmate down the aisle, their small hands gripping tight as they present the guest of honor, a towering figure in a tattered raincoat, its face a shifting void of screaming mouths. The ceremony always ends the same way, with the Pledge of Allegiance recited in reverse and the sound of a school bus engine roaring to life in the distance. This morning, workers arrived to find Route 44 completely normal, freshly paved, sunny, with cheerful wildflowers growing along the shoulders. The state has reopened it to traffic. Already, cars are streaming past, drivers waving at the friendly crossing guard who appears at every intersection. You might even see the bright yellow school bus making its rounds, the children's happy faces pressed against the windows as they head to Black Hollow Elementary. Go ahead, take the shortcut. Class is about to begin. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe for more scary stories.